In the last 2 weeks, there have been 30 flights that have landed at Canadian airports with at least one confirmed COVID-19 case on board. Ottawa has flagged 9 domestic and 21 international flights from Europe, India, Mexico, the Middle East, and the U.S. 13 of the international flights landed in Toronto, 5 in Vancouver, 1 in Calgary, 2 in Montreal. Health authorities say passengers on those flights may have been exposed to the virus. Joining me now is Raywat Deonandan. He's an epidemiologist with the University of Ottawa. Good morning. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So we have heard different things about flying. Some say it's really safe because you've got that bubble of air over top of you with the vent above. Other people say it's just too dangerous because people are sitting too close. What are your thoughts on how risky it is to fly during COVID-19?
It's not zero risk, obviously. It's lower risk than we think. I personally would not be doing it. So it's true that the filtration systems on a plane are excellent for filtering out the aerosol particles. It's true that the bubble of air is a real thing. And if you're wearing a mask and preferably a face shield and possibly even a smock and not interacting with people, you're probably quite safe. My concern arises with human behavior and also with the crowdedness. So is it possible to avoid being breathed upon by your neighbor? I don't know that it is. It'd be nice if the middle seats were empty. It would be nice if alternate rows were empty. It would be nice if you didn't have to go to the bathroom. These are all sources of potential infection. So while the risk, I think, is low, it's not zero. And the risk scales up the more number of people engage in the activity. It's a numbers game. In addition to that, getting on and off the plane is not entirely safe. And clustering in the airport and getting to the airport is also another story entirely. So it's a complicated set of factors and routes of infection.
Is it any riskier than, say, going to the gym this weekend or dining in at a restaurant?
Wow, that's an interesting question. The risk is manifold, and it also varies with the prevalence and likelihood of someone infected being present. If you're flying in from a high infection area, for example, the risk of having someone on that plane being infectious is higher than going to a restaurant in a community with a low infection rate. Gyms are an interesting situation. Now, it's possible to be very safe in a gym if you're going to lift weights in a sparse time of the day when people aren't around you and you're wearing a mask. And if you're going to an aerobics class, on the other hand, that's a bad idea. Every scenario is different, and every region has a different set of risks that need to be, measured independently.
When you heard about these travelers who had contracted the virus and they were on those flights and that information was made public, what went through your mind in terms of contact tracing and how much it can help airlines and government work together to track whoever may be exposed to the virus on a plane?
My first thought was, if this was a terrorist on a plane, they would know instantly where to go and who to contact, and it would be done pretty fast. And for some reason, we don't have the same set of urgency when it comes to a public health emergency as we do around a security emergency, and we should. So it's interesting that a plane manifest often doesn't have contact information sufficient to allow rapid testing and tracing. That needs to change. So what goes through my mind is, contact tracing is everything. The tools we have to control this epidemic are old school, and they're solid and they work, but there are only a handful of them. They're testing, tracing, isolation, and increasingly public awareness and communication. And we need to deploy those tools en masse, at scale, and repeatedly. And I hope we're doing so. It strikes me that it's not being done enough or with enough vigor or with enough attention in the transportation industry yet.
In the transportation industry. Okay, great to speak with you this morning, Raywat Deonandan. He's an epidemiologist with the University of Ottawa.